Ahoy and welcome to this Narrowboat adventure. Today I'm going to be taking you along with me to the London Boat Show. I actually used to work at the London Boat Show long before I had a boat. When I worked in catering, I used to run like a coffee bar there, and one year I think I did a champagne bar. That was all when it was in the Earl's Court Exhibition Centre. Now it's in XL, which I think is a much more fitting location, seeing as it is right on the water. Although they didn't have any boats exhibiting on the water, but there is a massive boat hotel, which is kind of cool. So the main reason that I was interested to go is because there was talks going on the Legends Theatre, which was talks by legendary sailors and also some YouTubers that I'm a big fan of, Riley and Elena, from Sailing La Vagabonde. If you haven't seen Sailing La Vagabonde, I'm going to let them introduce their story so far to you now.
You break things and then you're like, oh, I can't afford to fix it, and you slowly learn. You got to make the trip about the boat. So yeah, I guess you become a bit selfless or less selfish, put it that way. Anyway, it was single-handed sailing down the coast of Albania. Had to go back to work for a bit.
So he bought the boat and he was still working offshore, so he'd sail on his 3 weeks now instead of backpacking, and then he'd fly back to work. And
a holiday. But then met Elena on the island of Eos.
We met out one night actually, and Riley was looking really grumpy. He was like, the only person, Eos is it's got a good vibe, and he was the only person in this main square that was looking unhappy. And I was like, what is this guy's problem? Like, he's on my island. I kind of like felt obliged to like go over there and help him. Like, you know, this is a great place. And then his drunk friend came over to me, and I'd been
babysitting my mate.
And it clicked. I was like, this is why Riley is angry, is because he's looking after his drunk friend Jimmy. But anyway, Jimmy introduced us, and then he told me he had a boat.
He's a wonderful bloke, by the way, Jimmy.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. He is.
I don't know if you guys have seen those episodes where we went driving in a four-wheel drive in the outback in Western Australia. But that was his car, and we lived with him for 6 months. And him and Elena were from the same very small country town in Western Australia.
So he introduced us. We also lived with him for a time there. But so yeah, he introduced us, and Riley was due to fly back to work like a few days later. And he flew back to work, and for 2 weeks we didn't communicate, and then all of a sudden we were friends on Facebook, and we got talking, and he's like, Elena, I'd love to take you sailing when I get back from work. And I was like, to my friend, like, oh my god, this is crazy, like this guy's like sailing on a boat and he doesn't really know how to sail. So when he came back from work...
You didn't know that.
You didn't, but did you know how to sail?
I learned to sail on little 10-foot sailboats in school, but like no, I'm going to say no. When I hopped on Riley's boat...
I'm going to say no as well.
No. So yeah, when he came back, we went day sailing, and it just so happened to be like to this day, probably the nicest sail ever. Like,
that was a nice
that
sail,
was a sign.
Calm,
and so I was like, yes,
calm,
like I'll go along with you, and then, you know, it all went downhill from then. I'm just kidding, but it was a really nice sail, and he asked me to take off around Greece with him, and I said yes. And then we sailed for a year until we ran out of money, and that's when we had been making movies during that year, but it wasn't enough to keep us going. It was really just a hobby, and like I said before, it was like if I was making videos, Riley was like, well, that's all well and good, Elena, but how about you help me clean the boat? You know, it was like, it wasn't a job yet. And so when we went back to Australia, Riley was working offshore. That's when I really put my head down, and I was like, okay, I'm going to start a website. I'm going to make the YouTube channel look a bit prettier. I'm going to tighten up my editing skills. I was like, I really want to go back to the boat and be able to continue doing what we're doing, sailing and making videos.
So they're really big inspirations to me. I really love watching their videos, and I very much like the idea of going sailing around the world. So this may not always be a Narrowboat exclusive channel. One of the other talks that was really interesting to me on the Legends stage was a talk about the oceans and the plastics that's building up in the ocean. One of the things that was very interesting to me is that even when the sailors are very far out in the middle of the ocean where no humans are generally there very often, they still find loads of plastic and loads of evidence of us in the ocean. So that was very interesting. So here's some clips from the talks about the ocean.
The plastic we've been using, great product, it's an amazing technological marvel in fact. but it's very cheap, and we've been using it as if it's not something special at all. And the consequence is that we've already done quite significant damage to our oceans, which by the broader population are broadly unseen. So, and sailors and this sort of action by the Volvo Ocean Race, etc., are all great methods of highlighting the problem that is out there in the deep ocean.
In Asia, there's always a bit of stuff hanging around.
Yeah.
We're pretty passionate about keeping plastic out of the ocean. Like it nearly brings a tear to your eye.
Yeah, I nearly cried
in the
during
middle
that
of
thing.
nowhere.
That was beautiful, guys.
It seems pretty basic and simple.
Yeah.
That stay away from single-use plastics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We enjoy the oceans to actually advocate that the oceans are kept clean and that we adopt better practice. So
we've been working hard to raise awareness amongst boaters about their environment and what they can do. And in terms of plastics, a few recommendations would be to avoid single-use plastics, so water bottles when you're out on a boat or on shore, try and use a reusable one. I've got mine just behind me over here, green-blue one. Also you can see my keep cup, so when you're coming up to London Boat Show on the train and you want a cup of tea or a coffee, it's quite easy to pick up one of these cups. But if you've got one of these in your bag, you just hand it over and it can be refilled there and then. So the Green Brew believe that if the boating community can become more sustainable, it will save us money and eventually, okay, it will safeguard our waters for our habitats and wildlife.
One of the things that was said on the Legend stage that I thought was really brought home to me how much of a problem this is the sailors that spoke about in the video that they'd submitted because they were off sailing. The video said, well, if it takes us 2 weeks to sail the biggest piece of ocean that we have, then that really brings home how small the planet is. And I think that's so true. Like, the planet is so much smaller than we think, and we keep throwing rubbish into it, and we need to stop. So, as is suggested for the people who go to the beach, it's suggested to pick up 3 pieces of rubbish at the beach. I'm going to be taking plastics and things like that out of the water from my boat when I see them, and I'm going to dispose of them properly. Oh, they had like a fake lock, which was super cute, and they also had an old traditional narrowboat with the boatman's cabin and then the large butty at the front to keep coal and other goods in. That was very pretty. I also got to see inside some modern narrowboats. I'm not a huge fan of modern aesthetics, but some of the things in those narrowboats were very nice. Oh, I got to see loads of beautiful wooden and wooden style boats. So when I say wooden style, they're designed like a wooden boat, and in the GRP plastic that the hull is made of, it is moulded in the shape of wooden planks. So I think some of those are the most attractive boats, and I got to see inside a couple. And I also got to see some super yachts. So super yachts are not my style at all, but also absolutely fascinating to me. They are like the complete opposite to my aesthetic, but that's what makes them interesting to me. I got to go inside a small yacht, and I didn't even have to remove my shoes. If you go to this event, make sure to wear shoes that are easy to take off, because most people won't let you on their boat with your shoes on. Somebody told me it was because people don't make a huge amount of money selling boats, and the companies that sell boats have to sell the ones that they take to these events, so they can't have people like mucking it up with their shoes. I did get to have a go at wakeboarding on carpet. I've never had a go at any kind of sport like that, and unfortunately someone knocked my camera, so it's a little out of focus, but you can kind of see that I was actually really good by the end. I got to go inside a lovely Caribbean cruiser, which was wonderful, and I had an all-around smashing day. Yeah, it was really, really good fun, and I definitely recommend checking out the London Boat Show. Definitely I'm thinking about sailing in the future. Oh, I forgot! They also had this fake water pond thing, like a big pool, and then they had all these massive fans on the side that were making wind so that they could show the very small sailboats actually working, which I thought was pretty neat. Yeah, and I got to actually meet Riley and Elena. There wasn't a huge number of people actually there to meet them, so I got to have a little chat with them, which was very nice. They were very down to earth and kind people. And yeah, it was just a really fantastic day. I enjoyed it very much, and I would recommend anybody who has a chance to go to a boat show like that, do it. It's a good laugh. I went on Thursday, which is why it's a little quieter. I think the weekends were probably a lot more manic. Oh, and I did buy some fender ropes, so we were very happy about that. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to, you can click subscribe down below. Join us again on this narrowboat adventure. A massive thank you to Brian Knowlton. Thank you for being one of my patrons. And oh, if you want to check out my Facebook, I'll put links for everything in the description. Thanks very much. Have a beautiful day. Bye!